Good evening, folks, and I hope everybody's well. To everyone over in, I should rephrase that, to everyone in the UK, I hope you had a fantastic bank holiday weekend. And for those of you not in the UK, I hope you've had a fantastic weekend and a very good Monday. So it's been a little bit of a hot one this weekend, to be fair, over here. And I don't know, I'm assuming it's been pretty much like it's all over the UK, but certainly up in the northeast, which is notoriously quite cold. We've had some beautiful sunshine. I've had a couple of barbecues this weekend. Spent a bit of time outside with the family. So yeah, it's all been very nice. So we've got a few people already in the chat today. So we've got Mark, who is in nice and early. Hiya, Mark. I hope you're very well. Just replying to you there, but hope I had a nice weekend. Yeah, I'll come on to that in a little bit as well. But yeah, it's been absolutely roasting, mate. We've got Christian in. Nice to see you, Christian. Welcome back again, mate. Thanks for coming in. And we've also got Hal Martin in as well. So hiya, Hal. He's saying you can't wait for this special. So yeah, as you can see, we've got a little bit of a special one on Star Wars tonight. And we've also got Neil has just crept in there as well. Says he's in the hood. Nice to see you, Neil. Hope you're well, mate. Hope you've had a fantastic bank holiday weekend. So I'll just kind of set a little bit of a scene while I'm waiting for a few people to get in the chat. Normally what I like to do is I like to kind of leave the intro playing for a little bit, let a few people come in. But what I thought I'd do today was we'll just dive straight into it. We'll have a bit of a ramble while we're waiting for people to catch up. And then we can just kind of keep going. That way, if anybody comes over and they see that holding screen, they don't all bugger off. They hang with us for a little bit. So the plan tonight, in honor of May the 4th, a special Star Wars date, as anybody who's a big fan will know, I thought what we'd do is we'd just have a bit of a chat about anything to do with Star Wars from a gaming perspective. So no doubt we might get into the films and stuff, and at some point we'll probably touch on it. But we're talking Legion, we're talking X-Wing, especially with the new 2.0 rules coming out. We'll be talking Star Wars Destiny. We'll be talking Imperial Assault. We can even talk about the computer games as well. So things like Battlefront, Battlefront 2, and Force Unleashed, I think it's called as well, isn't it? And Force Unleashed 2. So pretty much when we get to the main topic, the Star Wars bit, which normally we do after about 15, 20 minutes, we'll kind of keep it open. We'll talk a little bit about X-Wing. We'll talk about the new releases for Legion and see what people think of what's happening in the community. We've also just seen on Facebook that this weekend was the Fantasy Flight Worlds, where they have their World Championships for all of the different game systems, and the winner of the X-Wing tournament, so the world champion for X-Wing, was a guy from the UK. I must admit, I forgot the name. I'll double check that and we'll give him a shout as we go on. Well, congrats to him. Very well deserved from what I understand. So we've also got Jens has just snuck in there as well. It says Guten Abend, which is very nice of you. A bit of local phrases there. I hope you're well, Jens. I hope you've had a nice weekend too, and I hope the weather's been kind to you as well. So what have I been up to hobby-wise recently? To be honest, I think with the heat and stuff, I haven't done a great deal apart from today. So you may have seen in one of my previous videos, I had the Red Beam Designs terrain that I was originally going to use for Necromunda, and I've decided to use it for Star Wars Legion. So I thought I'd take advantage of the warm weather today, get the old spray can out, and I've been priming all of that black just to try and get a little bit of to get a base coat onto it, because I'm sure if anybody who's ever tried painting MDF, you'll know that it just soaks up the paint. So I've already gone through one can of paint and haven't finished everything I set out to do today. But it was certainly drying nice and quick in the sun. So I was hoping it would kind of dry in before it soaked into the MDF. But it started to look all right. I've pretty much got most of it done that I wanted to use for Legion. So as soon as I get the plan for that really is just to get some cheap kind of craft grey paint, similar to stuff I used for the Walking Dead board, and just give it a bit of a dry brush, just to give it a bit of colour, a bit of a shape to it, really. Nothing too flash. I don't really want to spend too long on the terrain side of things, because I think I really just want it to kind of blend in. Really, I don't want it to stand out so much. So yeah, give it a bit of a dry brush, and then we're pretty much ready to go for the battle report, which I'm looking forward to. The plan will be to do kind of just like a starter box one, introducing people to Legion so you can kind of see how it plays. And then from there, we'll build up to the full 800 points. I forget now. I think it's 800 points. So yeah, Mark was asking there if I had a nice weekend, and it's been hot. So it's absolutely roasting in this room tonight. So I've had the blinds down today to try and keep the sun out, but with the PC running and my lights that I've got up here as well. So you might see my face going quite red as the night goes on. But I've got my water here to try and take care of that. So, how's everybody in the chat? Anyway, how's your weekend been? What have you been up to? We've got Sammy's just snuck in there as well. How are you doing, Sammy? How's your weekend been? Where have you been? Your mum was saying that she was taking you away this weekend. So, what have you been up to? Mark, you been doing anything with your models? I know you had a bit of a gaming day planned, I think, today, didn't you? How did that go? Did you get your games in? So let me know what you guys have all been up to as well. And I'm just checking to see who we've got dotted about. Yeah, we've got a few. We've got a few in at the minute anyway. So, yeah, if you're in the chat and you've not said hello yet, feel free to pop in and say hi, just so I can see who we've got, and then I know who we're talking to. I know what kind of games we're talking about as well before we get into the main topic of the Star Wars stuff. So let me just grab a drink while I'm starting to warm up. So Mark's saying he finally won Quest 5 in Zombicide. I'm assuming that's a bit of a tough one, is it, mate? You tried that one a few times before and not quite managed to make it. Neil said he's painted the shed. That's it. It's all painting, mate, isn't it? It all counts. I bet the paint was drying before you before you kind of got a couple of strokes on it. It must have been drying in this heat. It's when you get these bank holiday weekends, they end up just either you end up going somewhere and really having a lovely weekend, or you end up just doing all of the jobs around the house. Unfortunately, most bank holiday weekends tend to be bloody horrible weather, don't they? We seem to have hit lucky this time, so we did get a good weekend. I was at a stag do on Saturday, so it was absolutely roasting. We went go-karting in the morning, so that was like an oven. It was an indoor karting. And I went with some gaming friends. So if anybody listens to the Tales of Sigmar podcast, James Chalmers, who runs that, it was his stag do I was at the weekend. So we went go-karting in the morning. He was dressed as Yoshi from Mario Kart, and he kept that costume on all day, right the way through to, I think, till probably about midnight when he went home. So he was absolutely melting in it. But we had a good day. That was pretty good. So whilst it wasn't technically gaming related, it was with gaming friends. So Sammy says he's a bit boring. Spent the last few days roasting in the sun. It's horrible. Yeah. You're not built for the heat, Sam, are you? A little bit of a vampire skin, I think, that you've got, haven't you? Saying not like this tomorrow when you've got to wear layers and layers of uniform. Yeah, you're back to school in the morning, sunshine, aren't you? It's gonna be a bit warm in that old blazer. Jens is saying he took Montana cans to paint. I don't think I know what that means, mate. Do you want to just let me know what that means? Hal saying he went to a retro pinball and video game convention. It was great. Got some various Star Wars pinball games in, as well as the old Star Wars stand-up game from Atari. Nice to get a taste of nostalgia. Yeah, you can't beat a little bit of nostalgia, can you? Especially when it comes to things like Star Wars, kind of harking back to the old days. Christian saying he was at a family barbecue on Sunday, was in Folkestone today. Not a bad weekend. Mark was saying it's too hot to paint. Worried even my wet palette would dry out. Yeah, it's amazing the difference it makes when you're painting on a warm day. Even, like you say, even wet palettes, I mean, they're kind of essential in this kind of weather. But yeah, even on if you're just using like a normal kind of plastic palette or a bit of an old tile or something like that, it's amazing how fast they dry out. And any kind of wet blending or anything like that you're trying to do, it's unbelievable how it changes it. So we've got a few in now. How we're doing for time? Let me just check. We're at 10:09. What we'll do is we'll kick off. We'll start talking about the main topic tonight, which is Star Wars. What I'll also do as well a little bit later on, I think. So we'll see how long this one goes. We'll see how the chat is, how interested people are in it, and then what we might do later on is we might do a bit of a Q&A. If anybody's got any questions, I'm kind of creeping up on 2,500 subscribers now. I'm about 8 away or something like that. So we'll use this as a bit of a 2,500 subscriber Q&A as well. So if anybody's got any questions later on, we'll do that as well. So Jens is just clarifying there. It's a really good spray to use for MDF. It's normally a graffiti spray, so cheap. MontanaCans.com. It makes sense now. I know what you mean. Yeah, I've been using like an automotive primer, which to be fair wasn't very expensive. It's soaking in, but it's relatively cheap paint. Probably could have got away with something more like what you're suggesting there, to be fair. So over onto our main topic. So we're talking about Star Wars, and we're trying to focus on the Star Wars tabletop games, but I'm sure we'll kind of creep into other stuff later on as well. So let me know in the chat, anybody that's around. Do you play any of the particular Star Wars games? Is there any that you're interested in? Is there any that you don't play intentionally because you don't like them, or there's something about them that you're not that interested in? We'll kick off, I think, with Star Wars Legion. So Legion has been around since probably about 2 months now. So still a relatively new game. Still has people just starting to pick it up. I know there's a lot of my local stores I follow on Facebook are starting to kind of have beginner games, getting people interested in it. We've just seen the next wave of miniatures come out. So these were the Snowtroopers and General Veers for the Imperials. So there's a slight off balance at the minute where there's a bit more choice for the Imperials. For the Rebels, I think we've got Princess Leia coming pretty soon, I think, as well. And there's another what are the kind of Rebel Troopers? Another Rebel Trooper kit coming as well. So that should start to balance it back up again. But it's going to take a little while to get to a point where there is enough choice for the different sides, different factions, that you start to see people building different armies. At the minute, I think what you're seeing is you're seeing quite a bit of almost mirror matches, really. But yeah, that'll certainly change as time goes on. We'll start to see a little bit more interest in the games. But it seems to be picking up. There's lots of places that are starting to do bits of terrain for it now. People seem to be starting to get their armies painted up. We're seeing some really nice pictures. Certainly on Instagram, I follow basically the Star Wars Legion hashtag. And anybody that posts a picture with that hashtag, it comes through on my feed. And I've seen some really, really nice paint jobs on what are relatively kind of straightforward miniatures. So Star Wars Legion seems to be doing quite well. All of this talk about X-Wing going to a 2.0 version soon, September I think it is. I think it's got people a little bit worried about it, really, because I think people, certainly within certain groups, there's a chunk of people who were moving away from X-Wing because it was becoming a bit stale. It was becoming a little bit overly competitive. There was a real power creep, I think, and you were only really you had to spend quite a bit of money to get in there and always buy the kind of the most powerful lists, if you like, if you wanted to be competitive. That's generally, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but I think that's the general feeling from what I get from communities. Now the 2.0 version's been announced. I think there's a lot of Legion players have come from that X-Wing crowd, and they've moved over, and they've maybe invested a small amount of money, or a not so small amount of money, I should say, in getting set up with Legion. But now they know X-Wing's kind of getting a bit of a second wind. I think maybe there's some people are starting to drift back across to X-Wing, and I think Legion might suffer a little bit for that. I think in the grand scheme of things, I think there's enough players playing it that it won't matter too much. But for anybody kind of interested in this kind of thing, Tabletop Oddity did a video, I think it was either today or yesterday that I watched, and he kind of touches on that as well, and it kind of explains his thoughts on the matter as well. So it's worth going over and checking that out. But it's certainly they're very different games. One's a miniatures game with models that you need to build and you need to paint, and it's more, how would I put it? It's ground combat, isn't it? The other one, X-Wing, is very much the kind of magic crowd of you just buy them, they're ready built, they're ready painted, and it's more about the cards and stuff as well. So I'll just drop into the chat to see what people are saying about Legion. So Jens is saying his weekend was quiet. He's printed some stuff for his Walking Dead prison and Legion. You'll have to get some pictures in the Facebook group, Jens. I'd love to see what you're doing with the printing the Walking Dead stuff. I was just looking at Mantic's MDF prisons actually last week. They're a bit more expensive than I thought they were, actually. It's a shame Red Beam's gone now. I should have picked some up when they were still around. Sam's saying it sounds like they're taking it way too slow for any sort of tactical choice in the tournaments for this year around now. Yeah, I think, I mean, some stores have had some tournaments, kind of local tournaments, but I think they tend to be more just kind kind of more learning games, I think, at this stage. There are some tournaments coming up, but you're right, there's not a huge amount of choice at the minute. I think it's going to take probably about 6 months to get to a point where there's really a good kind of options, I think, and hopefully they keep it quite balanced, and that they do become options, and there's not just this one net list that everybody takes. We've got Generic Edgelord in. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. He says, the problem with the Star Wars board games are that they're all in the bloody Rebellion area. A Clone Wars would work so much better with a game like that. It's quite, even the KOTOR area would be better for it. It's quite interesting, actually, that they really do seem to have stayed away from the Clone Wars era. Certainly from a Destiny point of view, there's a little bit of the Clone Wars, more the Clone Wars cartoons rather than the movies. But there is a rich background in that Clone Wars era that they seem to have kind of almost negated at the minute. It would be, the Clone Wars era really was when you had all of the Jedis basically fighting. It wasn't just Luke Skywalker as that kind of Jedi out on his own, or in the newer stuff where you've got kind of you've got Rey and you've got Kylo Ren. Back in the Clone Wars, you had the full Jedi Council and all of the people, the Jedi Academy and everybody training. It would be a perfect thing to be able to game in that era, really. So I'd love to see them start to pull those ones through. It would really be good to see get Mace Windu in there and have Yoda bouncing around the board. I think there's some really thematic stuff in there. So it's a bit of a shame they've decided to stay away from it at the minute. But I do like what they've done with some of the Clone Wars cartoons, where they've brought in characters like Ezra and, I forget the names now. No, the name's gone from my head. The blue guy. I'm thinking Thanos, but I know that's Marvel. I can't remember what he's called now. Thrawn. That's it, Thrawn. So I like that they've brought them into Destiny. It'd be interesting to see them in Legion at some point. So Christian is saying he's looking to get Legion eventually. Got a lot on my desk and shelves at the moment. I think, to be honest, Christian, I don't think there's any real rush. I think because there's not a lot of choice at the minute, you'd end up buying stuff just because there's not a lot of choice. So personally, I'm almost not rushing in to buy everything. It's not something I think I will. It's something I'll play for my own pleasure, really, rather than wanting to go very heavily into recording this kind of stuff for the channel. So I feel like I'll just be buying stuff that I want to buy, really. I want to see a few more waves come out, really, before I start spending much more on it. Jens is saying, also sold all of his X-Wing stuff last year. Also Imperial Assault. I've only got Legion now. Imperial Assault is something I wanted to chat about if anybody has any kind of experience with it. It's a game I've been looking to get into, to be fair. I like the idea that you can play it now with the app, which means you can play it as solo player. And I know it's based around Descent, the board game. I think that the main rules are kind of based upon that, and there's a Star Wars skin almost over the top of it. So I'll be interested to know if anybody else has played it and what they think of it as well. Mark is saying he's interested, but not going all in like he did with X-Wing. So looking for players in the area. Yeah, that's the thing, Mark. If there's no local players, it's a hard sell, isn't it? I mean, any game, it doesn't matter how good it is or how thematic it is. If you want to buy the game just to paint the miniatures, and if you think there's value in, for example, if you never played the game and you think there's value in the miniatures and painting them and displaying them, that kind of thing, then that's great. But if you really want to pay, if you want to buy it to play it, then unfortunately you need some players, don't you? Jens is saying the prison is from Red Bean. Oh, that's the one I've been looking at previously, but yeah, no longer in production now. And he's saying, do I mean Rebels? I do mean Rebels. When I'm talking about the Clone Wars cartoons, I'm forgetting there was the old Clone Wars cartoons. Yes, I'm definitely mean Star Wars Rebels, which is a really, really good cartoon series. If anybody's not seen it, it definitely came through in the Disney era, and it's got a very much a Disney influence. I mean, there's a character Ezra who looks like Aladdin. It could almost have been lifted from that. So there's some really cool characters in it, but it's worth a watch if you've not seen it. Generic Edgelord said, the Imperial 1 and 2 are good looking, but the Venators are just that good looking. Yeah, there's some good stuff in that, isn't there? Mark saying Smurfs in Star Wars. Yeah, Throne. I couldn't think of the name. I've been watching. It's kind of funny. I've been trying to stay away from the whole Infinity War thing at the minute because I haven't seen it yet, and I don't want any spoilers from the whole from the Avengers stuff. But I keep seeing Thanos everywhere I go. I went shopping at the weekend to buy a little garden slide for my son, and he had walked into Argos to pick it up. And he's this massive big Infinity War display. I feel like I see him everywhere I go. He's on every bloody advert, especially every advert online. Christian is saying, love to see Kyle Mundi or Ayla Sakura. I apologise for my pronunciations. Yeah, there's some real sort of just those characters to want to see them come through into the games. I'm just really surprised that we haven't, especially from a balance point of view. If you're bringing in a lot of Jedis and you can bring in kind of a lot of bring in people like General Grievous and people like other kind of Sith Lords, if you like, Sith Apprentices. If you could bring them into the game, you can have those very powerful characters, and then you can have kind of your minions and your your foot troopers kind of thing. But at the minute where the game is, we've got Luke Skywalker, we've got Darth Vader in there with these kind of superpowers, and it's almost like they've been designed to be the peak, and everything else is just weaker than them. So it'll be interesting to see how they balance those kind of things out, because they still need them to feel very powerful because they are as characters. So they can't just kind of say like, Luke Skywalker is exactly the same as, for example, General Veers. Then what we got? We got Sean Hughes in. Nice to see you, Sean. How are you doing? He's saying the Salt Must Flow 2.0 is pay to win. We've not got a 2.0 yet, mate, but you're welcome to. Sean is very much on the case of making sure everybody knows how he feels at the minute. I know he's not very happy about X-Wing 2.0, but we're just talking about Legion at the minute, Sean. So we'll get on to we'll get into X-Wing in a bit. Generic Edgelord is saying Obi-Wan Kenobi. Enough said. Yeah, definitely young Obi-Wan. I'd love to see those in the game. It's a shame, really. I mean, we'll see Obi-Wan, I think, in Legion, but we'll see him as the older guy. Unfortunately, I'd like to see him kind of as the young, fresh, kind of up against Anakin Skywalker, Kenobi. We've got Todd in as well. Nice to see you, Todd. He said he's going to be holding off getting it till he get more reviews. If anything, I'll just collect the Legion minis for painting only. Yeah, I don't know whether you caught that before, Todd. I just mentioned that it probably depends. If you see the value in just getting them to have them and in painting them and stuff, then kind of diving in. But I think if you're on the fence still, there's no rush to get into it until you see a few more waves come out really and see how it's balanced. Jens is saying Imperial Assault is fun, but you need time and players. You should play the campaigns. I sold it because enough people own it. Legion is faster. That's what's put me off, to be fair. It's I had heard that it takes a hell of a long time to kind of play through it. Maybe 2 or 3 hours per campaign or per portion of the campaign. And that's what's kind of put me off so far. That's why I wouldn't mind some more information on it. Yeah, Generic Edgelord is saying Count Dooku, Ventress, Dirge, and of course the good General himself. So many characters in that era. I know the films were kind of bashed a bit, but there were some real good characters in there that they could explore in Legion, and I really do hope at some point they do go down that route, because I just think it just brings so much more flavour to it. At the minute, the thing that's kind of, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit kind of, I think I've mentioned this before, really a little bit worried. At the minute, I'm just feeling we've got versions of Stormtroopers and versions of Rebel Troopers at the minute, whether they be Snow Troopers or whether they be Stormtroopers, and the same with the Rebels. I need to see some more kind of variance in the game, I think. We've got Michael in. He says, hello, stinky little friends. Miss me? Of course, Michael. We always miss you. Always good to have you here. Nice to see you in the stream again, mate. You've got a mixture of yeses and nos there. Good to see you, Sean. I know you feel quite strongly about X-Wing, but I'm all about kind of letting everybody have an opinion. Nobody's opinion is wrong. Everything is personal to themselves, and some people will share opinions, some people won't. So I know that you've kind of had a little bit of crossed, I wouldn't say crosswords, but you've had some crossed opinions in chat on different YouTube videos. But hey, everybody's entitled to air their views. Steve's in. Nice to see you, Steve. So he's just popping in when he's having a night with a wife. thanks for popping in, mate. Really appreciate you dropping by to say hello. And enjoy your night, whatever you're doing. I won't go any further than that. Neil is saying, just going to X-Wing, but it's a bit rubbish coming at the end. Can't wait for 2.0 and be part of the fun. I think if you're just getting started, now is probably not a bad time actually to get ready for the new 2.0. I appreciate that if you're heavily invested, it's gonna be expensive. There's no two ways about it. You are essentially having to pay money to continue to use the stuff you already did if you want to play the second edition. But we'll come on to that one soon. We've got Dylan Adam in. He says, hi, nice to see you, Dylan. I'm not sure if we've chatted before, but welcome to the stream. Thank you very much for tuning in. We've got Jens is saying he bought Vias, but don't want to buy the new Troopers too. Leia, of course, to have different commanders. Yeah, it's I think once we've got Leia coming, we've got Han Solo coming. I don't think there's been another Imperial commander mentioned yet. I might have missed that one, but yeah, I'm pretty sure there hasn't been. But I think we're going to need about 3 or 4 commanders per faction before we really start to see any different play styles or any synergies between things. So that's Legion. Let's move on now, and we'll have a chat now. Seeing as we got Sean in, let's have a chat about X-Wing 2.0. Dylan is saying, "Are you British?" I am, Dylan. I am from the northeast of England, a place called Newcastle. Maybe the accent is just a bit unusual if you're used to hearing the very Middle England or a London accent. So where are you from, Dylan? Don't think we've chatted before. So yeah, X-Wing 2.0, for anybody that isn't aware of it, and I know there's been a lot of information online at the minute, and if you remember in the X-Wing groups, you'll have seen very much two sides of a conversation. What's basically happening is there is a second version of X-Wing that is coming. X-Wing version 1 has been around for about 6 years now, and Fantasy Flight announced last weekend, was it maybe, or early part of last week, was basically that they are introducing the second edition, and they've tried to tighten up the rules, and they've tried to balance everything out. The downside of this means is that all of your first version X-Wing cardboard stuff, so things like the bases for the ships, the tokens, the cards, essentially the pilots, the upgrades, they're essentially going to have to go in the bin. So if you have no intention of playing version 1 anymore, you can pretty much bin all of the cardboard, all the tokens, all of the cards, your damage deck, all of that stuff. Keep your dice. You have to now invest into second edition, and in order to make that leap to second edition, you need to buy a core set because the damage deck is different, and the movement templates are slightly different as well. They now have a line down the middle, and they also have an additional template in, which is for barrel rolls, I believe. So you need to buy the core set. Even if you've already bought core sets in the past, you need a 2.0 core set. And then you also need to buy a conversion kit or an upgrade kit for your faction. So if you have only ever bought Rebels, then you only need to buy the Rebel upgrade kit. However, there are a limited number of upgrade components in there. So let's use the Imperials as probably a better example. A lot of people in version 1 flew X-Wing, TIE Fighter swarms, which had 8 TIE Fighters in. The upgrade kits only have enough cards to convert 4 of them to 2.0. So if you want to continue flying 8 X-Wings, you'll need to essentially buy 2 kits worth of TIE Fighters, sorry, not X-Wings. You'll need to buy 2 versions of the upgrade kits. Now, the people are saying that you have to buy the core set, so you get 2 TIE Fighters in there. You then get 4 TIE Fighter upgrades in the conversion kit, and then potentially you can go on the open market and people will be splitting down the boxes and you can go and buy another couple. However, that said, you still have to buy quite a bit of stuff to just play the models you were playing in version 1 and allow you to play them in version 2. So that's why at the minute there is a lot of discussion about the cost of moving from version 1 to version 2. Now, to complicate that further, most people, I would say, tend not to just stick to one faction. So at the minute, there are 3 factions in the game. There's Rebels, there's Imperials, and there is Scum and Villainy. Most people seem to have a mix of the 3. And especially if you buy a core set, there is a Rebel in there, and there's an Empire ships in there. So people tend to have expanded, certainly, at least from there originally. Take this forward even further. I forget how long ago it was, but they released a new core set, which had ships in from... I forget the name of the Star Wars film now, but they had ships in from The Force Awakens. And so now what they've done is the ships that have come in from that era, The Force Awakens, they've now created an extra 2 factions. So they now have the Rebellion. I forget the names now, my head's all over the place. They've now got the Rebellion, and they've also got the First Order. So now they're going to have 5 factions. So if you've bought quite a lot of ships from first edition, you're going to have to buy quite a bit of upgrade stuff across the different factions now to be able to play those ships in the future. So essentially, that's the big issue at the minute. Some people are saying, great, I've kind of had enough of X-Wing and I need this 2nd edition because I want to see it be refreshed. And some people are very pro for it. Some people are saying the upgrade kits are not that expensive. If you think about when Warhammer 40,000 went to 8th edition, they basically scrapped all of the codexes. You had to buy the indexes for the new armies. You had to buy the rule book for the new edition, and then very quickly they started bringing out codexes again. So I suppose you could kind of almost compare the two a little bit. But either way, it is a big expense. No matter how much you can, whether you've got loads of money or you don't have much money, it's still a big expense to be able to continue to play the game. The other thing I've just noticed there in the chat as well as mentioned is there's now an app, and you do need to either access the internet onto their website, or you need to access it through an app, which will give you the points costs for your ships, your pilots, and your upgrades. Because what they're going to do is they're going to be able to balance it kind of on the fly, and over certain periods of time, they'll rebalance things as new stuff comes out. And this allows them to, instead of having to make a card irrelevant in the future, they'll just tweak the points on the app. So let's have a look in the chat and see what we're going here. So Dylan is saying he's from New York. Welcome from New York. See what we're talking about. We're basically talking about Star Wars games, miniatures games, tabletop games. So at the minute, we're just focusing on, we're just been talking about Legion. We're just talking about X-Wing now. We'll be moving on through some of the other stuff later on as well. Christina is saying, fortunately, he only got the core set for version 1. We're getting to 2.0, we'll start again. Yeah, and I think the only people that have really the only people that will benefit from this are the ones who probably haven't bought anything, and this is the trigger to get them in. Because I think it was quite difficult, an entry point to X-Wing for new players now after 6 years. Sean saying, no reason the deck and templates couldn't be in the upgrade kits. I completely agree, Sean. What also kind of stuck in my throat a little bit was, if you pre-order a core set, you can get like an upgraded damage deck as well, which is slightly bigger cards, some nice kind of X-Wing blueprints and stuff, artwork on them, which look fantastic, and I'm sure people will want them. But you only get them if you pre-order the core set. So you're already getting the damage deck. It's almost just a kind of a nice to have at that point. They should have been in there when you pre-order the upgrade kits. You should have got those, and maybe even just got the extra little one, the one template that you were missing as well. It does. That's a little bit. I agree with that one. There's no reason why they couldn't have been in there. Mark is saying he's gutted that he's in Rebel, Scum, and Empire, so it's expensive to convert. Can't really go one conversion at a time due to needing, say, Rebels and Empire to play. Yeah, that's kind of where I am, really. I mean, I haven't bought a lot. Me and Sam used to play quite a bit a while ago, but I didn't buy a lot of ships. But if I want to continue playing, I'm going to have to buy at least 2 upgrade kits, which is probably going to cost me in the region of about 80 quid, something like that, 75, 80 quid. Don't even think I've paid that much for my X-Wing stuff, because I don't have that much kit, that much stuff. So we'll see how that goes. Jens is saying that it's expensive to upgrade. Sean's saying, don't worry, you'll need the even newer deck in the Force Awakens core set Wave 2. I wonder if they'll even do that. I think this is the reset now, Sean, isn't it? I think what we're seeing now is going to be, this is how it'll be for some time, I think. I would like to hope so anyway. Mark saying all that, really like to look at 2.0. It's difficult to justify, but still want to start a game. Yeah, and that's kind of where I think there's a lot of people in there. I'm never going to play this a game camp. There's a lot of people in the can't wait for 2.0 to upgrade. I want to refresh the game and I love playing it. There's a core of people, I think, as well in the middle who are like, it's really expensive, but it does look interesting. So I don't think there's any clear path at the minute. Mark's also saying he's got 2 decks now, so why not put the damage deck on the app? Yeah, that will be interesting, actually, having the damage deck on the app. Or even, does the damage deck even need to change, really? I mean, at the end of the day, does it need to change? I did read somewhere, I think, that the X-Wing dials, or is it might even be the TIE Fighter dials, I think. I don't think the TIE Fighter dials have actually even changed, but you will need the new ones. Jamie's saying, be thankful for an upgrade path. And hi Jamie, nice to see you, bud. That is the other side of it as well, is at least they're trying to do something. The game had become far too hard for new players to get into. Like I say, I played quite a bit in the first wave. I kind of drifted away as I do and play other things, but I'd look to get back into it, and the entry barrier was just so high. It was so confusing. All the kind of conversations about different damage decks, and there's so much FAQ. It had become a bit of a logistical mess, to be fair. So they did need to do something. So I do appreciate they're doing something about it, and I do appreciate that they are not just saying version 1 doesn't exist anymore. You need to start buying version 2. They are giving a kind of an upgrade path to it. It's just a bit pricey. Michael saying, bit pity can't talk about Star Wars because I never played a Star Wars game. One of the only ones I supposed. Owned X-Wing copies, never opened them. Doesn't mean you can't talk about it, Michael. Yeah, I guess what you can, I mean, you'll probably know from other things. Has there ever been any games that you've played where you've had to upgrade to be able to keep playing? So for the closest I can think of really is the Warhammer Fantasy, the AOS, where yes, you could use your old models in a new version, but pretty much everything else went out the window and you had to start again. And that's the closest I can really think of that puts these two kind of games in a place where the kind of the community is split over it a little bit. Jamie saying he found the entry playing too hard, so I'm all up for a reset. Excuse me. Yeah, I think that's where a lot of people are. There was just such a barrier to getting into it. Everything was pretty much net listed. It was a grab to, you needed to buy this ship because you needed that one card that was inside it. That is something that's good going forward, is that you're not going to be, you won't have to buy Rebel ships in order to get upgrades that are powerful for Imperials. Everything that is compatible with an Imperial ship will be in Imperial boxes. So that, at least that is a positive move. Jens is saying he played X-Wing some time. Also Epic Games, but like you said, hard to get into as a newbie. Also to make a good list. I think something I'd read over the last few days was from somebody that was basically saying it was almost a case of it had become a card game, and you basically put your cards down, you look at each other's cards, and you could kind of see which way the game was going to go before you even put a ship on the table. And I don't know if that's technically true, but it does sound like a lot of games that ever kind of get to that point where you get power creep and it's really, really one-sided. Michael saying Magic the Gathering, buy or lose every damn time. I think that is another game that is probably along them similar lines. And they certainly, am I right in thinking as well that Magic the Gathering have those legacy timings as well? So there's a point where the cards are no longer usable in sort of tournament games. I think they have legacy games where you can use them, so they're not irrelevant. However, they stop becoming part of the roster. So what's I think I know the answer from Sean, but what's everybody else's feelings? Is it something you're interested in? Is it something that you just, is it just it's not of interest to you, it's just going to pass you by. What do you think about the fact that they have upgrade kits? Do you think, like Jamie, that at least they're giving you that chance? Or do you think that it's all about the price they've pitched them at? I mean, I do know there's a lot of cardboards going to be in these sets, but I do wonder just how... So, for example, the dials, how important is it that the dials have changed? Why couldn't the dials have just stayed the same? I don't think there's a massive difference, really. Like, why have they brought in medium-sized ships so that things like the Slave 1 is now on a medium base rather than a large base? Does that really, does it really make that much difference to the game? Does it break the game? I'm not so sure. Michael's also saying, so Magic the Gathering, or you get pushed out of the format and lose any way possible the other formats. Yeah. Jamie saying, I think that's what happens in every deck-based games. It just happened with Shadespire. The Cataphrane decks are winning left, right, and centre. Yeah, that is a shame, isn't it? You almost get to a point where it's just like a net deck, and it's almost... If you get the cards right, then it's just the look of what order they come out kind of thing, and that's a real shame. It takes away from the enjoyment for me personally. Michael saying, would dive in it commercially as the shop I am, but not as a player. Yeah, I think it was a bit of a money spinner, but from what I understand, the stores didn't make a lot of money on it. They just sold quite a bit of it, but didn't make particularly good margins. Generic Edgelord is saying Magic's got formats, standard being the shortest lived one. Jens is saying it's all about the money. Jamie, because at the end of the day, Fantasy Flight games are there to make money. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're a business. Let's not knock them. They have a game. They are trying to improve it. They're trying to give it longevity because they could just let it die, basically. If they do nothing and just keep churning out the same stuff, eventually it'll die, but at least they're trying to do something about it. But they're not going to do it for free, let's be honest. Neil saying, not in much, so can't wait. I'm glad I didn't buy more. I'm kind of like that, Neil, to be fair. I think it does feel like it's a re-entry point. I've not spent a lot of money on it. I hadn't sort of spent money on it over the years. It feels like a good reset point for me. But I do understand how people feel about it. So, speaking of card games, Star Wars Destiny is also another Star Wars game, again made by Fantasy Flight, and as a dice and card game. You may have seen a couple of videos on my channel a little while ago if you were watching that, or if you've been looking for those ones rather. And again, I really enjoyed this game when I first got into it. It's really I love the way it's just card and dice, and I didn't have to paint any models. It was a nice little side game. I bought a couple of starter sets and a few bits of cards. I also bought into one of the waves as well, bought a few boxes of those. And I managed to get myself a couple of kind of decent lists, if you like. A couple of decent decks. And I was really enjoying it. I used to play it at a local store. I actually won a tournament there. I used to play when I was in Manchester as well, at Element Games, and I played in a tournament there and came second. And I really enjoyed it. But again, it started to move very fast. No sooner had you kind of bought like a wave of stuff, the next wave was already being announced. A few months later, it was coming along, and everybody kind of gets back into that kind of rebuying again. Then they announced there was going to be some different versions of the game, and it just moved really quick. And it was another one of these games that you just needed to keep buying the latest waves. And that does worry me a little bit about Legion, because that just seems to be the Fantasy Flight way. Unfortunately, if you're a Star Wars fan like me, you've kind of got to suck it up. Let's have a quick look. We've got a bit more coming through about X-Wing as well before we move on completely. Michael is saying about €7 on the starter, €2 on the booster's profit. Yeah, it's not much, is it really? You've got to be shifting a hell of a lot of stuff for that. Christian saying it's another one I may pick up, but not bothered either way. Yeah, I agree with that one. Mark saying the new ships look nice, and I'm sure I'll get back into it but not straight away. The new ships do look nice as well. However, they are they're going up in price as well, I think, aren't they? Jamie saying the more junk they put in the box makes you feel like you're getting more. Yeah, I think there is going to be a hell of a lot of stuff in it. Whether you're going to use it all, or if it's just going to make you go out and buy a load more ships because you've now got a load of cards that you can't use without buying ships. it might end up being a bit of a double-edged sword. Jens is saying in the end of it, he won't go back to X-Wing. He sorted out some stuff. It's tabletop only. Walking Dead, Legion, pre-order Fallout. Yeah, Fallout looks quite nice as well. I quite fancy picking that one on the quiet as well. Neil's saying he loves the concept and the mechanics. Want Battle of Britain game mechanics based on X-Wing. I actually think, wasn't X-Wing based upon Wings of War? I think X-Wing basically took it was either Wings of War or Wings of Glory. I forget which one it was, but I think it actually was based upon kind of Battle of Britain style air combat. Jens is saying some board games Lovecraft based. Never really got into Lovecraft stuff, like Lovecraftian. I need to kind of find out a bit more about it, I think. Sean saying there's not enough transparency from FFG on the entire 2.0 update and the price, especially for people like me that just played for fun and cards as written. Yeah, that's. I think the people that are generally a bit more positive about this are the people that are massively into the competitive side of the game and are quite happy just to buy whatever comes out, really. The casual gamer, people, I think, like generally people tonight in the chat are probably a bit more miffed about it, really, because you want to be able to play at your local store, you want to play with your friends, you want to be able to play on an even kind of playing field with everybody else. But there's going to be this split between version 1 and version 2, where some people won't commit to version 2, some people can't afford version 2, and the stores will only support that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens kind of October, November time. Mark's asking Neil if he looked at Blood Red Skies. And he also said, when was the last time you bought Destiny cards? I'll be honest, I think the last time I bought them was just before the... I forget what they're called now, the later boxes, but the ones that were in the white packaging, where they introduced the new mechanic. There was an extra die side on them. Not an extra side on the die, but an extra option on one of the die sides. I forget what those packs were called now, but I never picked them up at that stage. I love the game. I really enjoyed playing it, but it was very difficult with the blank boosters, the blind boosters rather. It was very difficult to be able to kind of to build a good deck, really. To build a good deck. Michael's saying commercial competition on FFG games is so hard because everybody sells them. They keep pushing the prices down and down to stay ahead of the competition. Yeah, that is a shame, really. There is definitely that kind of supply and demand thing. Fantasy Flight Games are making their money regardless because they're selling it at retail, at wholesale price, and they just keep making their stuff. But unfortunately, I think Magic the Gathering must be a similar thing, is it? I mean, I know a lot of stores seem to kind of base their entire model on selling Magic the Gathering cards. I don't know Magic the Gathering well enough to know how that works. Michael's also saying the shops here that sell at buying price plus tax plus 3%. It's do you know what it is? If it's bringing people into your store and they're buying other stuff, you can kind of have them as a bit of a loss leader, if you like, just to get them in the store, or if you're getting them in and they're paying to use tables or something. But that kind of margin, you can't run a business on that kind of profit level. Jamie's saying never got into Destiny. I would have, but it moved too fast, and I love dice. Yeah, do you know what it is, Jamie? I would happily just have a game sometime with you, mate, with the stuff I've got, because it is a good game. But you're right, it moved too fast even for me, and it wasn't the cost of it for me personally, because it was a game I was enjoying because I could get straight in, I could play it while I was away. I just put my deck in a bag and I can take it out like when I was working away, and I really enjoyed playing the game. But I just felt like I just couldn't keep up with it. There was, even when I was getting my head around the latest releases and trying to build decks, people were talking about cards that were coming out in like sort of 2 or 3 months' time. I almost just lost my way a bit with it, really. Christian saying Destiny never something that really interested him. Jens never interested in Destiny. I think majority of us are probably miniature gamers, which is why if you're not into Magic the Gathering, or I think there's a Star Wars living card game as well. If you're not into those kind of things, then I think Destiny might have might have kind of passed you by a bit. Mark saying he started with Destiny but stopped. So many packs now, can't keep up. The white packs was Legacy. That was the one. I think when the Legacy one was announced, I tell you the other thing that kind of peeved me a little bit as well was I I bought the starter set, which was the white starter set with Kylo and Ren in, and they did an FAQ which tweaked the points costs for. I think it wasn't for Kylo, it was for Phasma. They added a point onto Phasma, and what it meant was actually that those starter decks you couldn't use anymore because they were overcosted. There was so you play to 30 points. And with the repointing, it took it to 31. So you couldn't even play the 2 cards that came in the starter deck anymore. And that was a deck I was playing. Obviously, maybe I was winning with a deck that was slightly unbalanced if that was the way it was. But yeah, so at that point, that limited one of my deck options, really. I couldn't play with it anymore. And I didn't really have enough options to be able to put something in that would really help me. That was when I started to kind of get lost out of it a little bit, I think. Jimmy's saying, let's face it, the guys, X-Wing's a tournament game. It's not aimed, designed, or built for casual players. I know I sound like an elitist knob, but that's a core audience. Yeah, I think I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Jimmy. I think people that buy it to play casually can still enjoy the game, but you almost need to accept that the game is going to move fast, and you either move with it and the tournament players, or you just buy what you like and play it casually. There's a load of guys play at the Newcastle Warlords where I try to get to, and they seem to play quite casually. They don't seem to be interested in the latest stuff. But it only works if you're in with a crowd like that, I guess. Neil saying, Mark, he's seen some vid, but looks odd with the aircraft pointing upwards or downwards for speed. Looks complicated. I've not watched any videos of it yet. I saw the models when I was at Salute a few weeks ago. And I think they're coloured plastic, I think, so you just put some transfers on them. You almost don't even have to paint them. But it looked all right, but it didn't grab me. But then I'm not really into that kind of World War II stuff, really, so that's probably why. Christian saying, love Magic and Pokemon. Not sure what it was about Destiny that I didn't like. I think the dice was a strange, probably a bit of a strange introduction, but it did make it a very different game. Michael saying, about Magic, you can play it competitive, but among friends, we never go with a format. Makes it a hell of a lot more fun. And if you commit suicide faster, it can kill you off. And you can kill you off. I think I've played Magic like once or twice, really. And with I think my kids bought a couple of starter decks years ago when they were quite young, and we played a little bit. But I must admit, I didn't. I think is it 60 cards that you have in a Magic the Gathering deck, and that felt like a lot to try and build up and to try and put a good deck together. Mark saying, same with Destiny. To Jamie, it's more tourney orientated. It definitely is. Like I say, if you're just playing with a few friends, it's fine. But if you're playing with a group of people, like unfortunately the only people I could find within the 2 groups I went to were very much all about the kind of competitive side of it. You needed to keep up. Michael also saying, playing with a fluff built deck. Once had a demon deck. Started as a couple of cultists doing a ritual that goes wrong. Got sacrificed. So much fun. I must admit, I like the idea of Magic. Like I like the kind of the fact that they've built this kind of world around it. I was actually playing a little bit of League of Legends this afternoon as well. I've not played that in ages. Really, I really enjoyed it, and I should try and get back into it really because I do quite enjoy it. And I got an A- in my first game again today after not playing for about 18 months. So I'm all right with that. Is it Melkian? Nice to see you there. I don't think I've seen your name come up before that now. So nice to see you in the chat. Thank you very much for joining us. He's saying the fact you only get 6 legendary cards per booster pack for Destiny, but in most cases you need 2 copies of those cards to get the 2 dice. That again is the problem. So I'd certainly had to kind of buy individual cards online to try and to complete that kind of two dice versions. To be honest, I should probably sell some of the legendary stuff I've got because some of them go for like sort of 20-30 quid each, and they're just sitting there gathering dust now. I should probably try and dust them off and sell them. Jens saying, are you looking forward to the Solo movie? I am, Jens, actually. I am. The trailers look excellent. I love the fact that they're going back with these kind of sort of one-off stories that are deviating away from the kind of the trilogies, if you like they did with Rogue One. However, I did watch a video on YouTube today from, and I forget who it was, the guy that wrote the video, but he was asking people to boycott going to see the Solo movie, and he was saying it because he is it Catherine Kennedy, who's the Disney executive who looks after Star Wars. He basically said that she's killing off the franchise. He said if you look at the takings of the movies, they're gradually going down from The Force Awakens, and then look what Disney is doing with Avengers, with Marvel. I mean, this last one, Infinity War's just been the quickest film ever to hit $1 billion takings with the Infinity film. So he was trying to promote people to say, if you at least don't go and see it on the opening weekend, because it needs to send a message to Disney that they're doing it wrong. That essentially they'd almost distanced themselves from the old stuff and said, we're not making movies for the fans, we're making Star Wars films for a new generation. And I must admit, it's the first time I'd really thought about it. I've quite enjoyed the new Star Wars films. Are they as good as the older ones? Probably not, but then I was probably about 10 when I watched those ones, and I've got fond memories of them. But I do still enjoy the new ones. They are they're popcorn films. I'm not going to get myself too kind of hung up about what they're trying to do with bringing in some new sort of new characters or bringing in new twists to the story. I'll still go and see it. And the Han Solo backstory about how he gets the Millennium Falcon and wins it from Lando Calrissian, I really want to see how that all comes together. So yeah, really looking forward to the film. Really looking forward to finding out what that story is. But I was quite interested to hear some like another opinion on how those Star Wars films are going. Let's see. Jamie saying he enjoyed playing Magic, but started to burn money. Yeah, I think I must have sunk about 500 quid into Destiny before I even realised where it had gone. Jamie saying, I am honest about having Chinese prints of the Power 9, the 9 strongest cards in the game. It's about how you play. He says, Michael said he is too, Jens. Love the not giving a shit attitude of Han in the trailer. Yeah, I must admit it. I think the casting's not too bad. I like is it Donald Glover, I think, is playing Lando character. He seems to be doing a good job from what I can see in the trailers. And I like the fact they've got that mix of kind of humour and history in there as well. Neil, no one's stopping him seeing it. He's massively looking forward to it. Mark's right up for it as well. Jimmy saying Han Solo, without doubt, favourite character in any medium. For me, it looks awful. I don't know why. I think the actor isn't channeling enough Harrison Ford. There's a lot of people have said that as well, that basically it's like you can't recast like an iconic character kind of thing. That you couldn't imagine anybody else as Indiana Jones as an example. I know they have to, they go into a backstory. They can't have Han Solo being played by Harrison Ford again in this one. But I just hope he kind of does it justice. I must admit, Jamie, I quite like the trailer actually. It's going to take me some getting used to it to kind of, that is Han Solo kind of thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Jens is saying Chewie and Lando were great and Han will work. It's Star Wars, who cares? Sometimes that's my only worry about this, is that actually we do very blindly just go, hey, it's Star Wars. I'm all in. Let's no matter what we think, we do just kind of blindly go in when we see Star Wars stuff. Michael said, did you know Disney asks 65% of the revenue in the first week of playing the movie in theaters? You talk about having products in store to lure peeps to the store. Disney does it too. I suppose it's if you've got a good thing on your hands, then you're going to milk it for all you're worth, aren't you? I mean, I'd imagine they do something very similar with the Marvel stuff too. I mean, those things are just like sort of like money machines, aren't they? I went to see, I forget what it was. Oh, it was Ready Player One. I went to see recently, and they'd hiked the prices up for that as well. So it was more expensive to go and see Ready Player One than it was to go and see Peter Rabbit as an example. So yeah, big movies, and they tend to hike the price a little bit now, and that must be why, really. Neil saying Star Trek worked well with the new casting. It did actually. I mean, Jamie saying when Chris Pine played Kirk, he had William Shatner's mannerisms perfectly. It was really well cast, I would say. I mean, Chris Pine isn't an actor that I particularly I wouldn't say he was a favourite actor of mine. I didn't think he was particularly good in Wonder Woman. But he does play the Shatner character quite well. Jens is saying, Jehovah. I assume that Jens isn't a fan of the new castings. I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, if I'm honest. I've never seen any of the original TV series, the William Shatner ones. I've never seen any of the kind of the subsequent ones, New Generation and Deep Space Nine and all of them things. I don't think I've ever actually seen one of the original Star Trek films. I've only seen the remakes, the later versions. I've seen those. But for whatever reason, Star Trek always just felt a little bit old fashioned. I think I want to say. I mean, I know it's a cult thing, and it could be brilliant. Like I say, I've never watched it, but it never struck a chord with me really. Jamie saying when he was on the bridge during the Kobayashi Maru test sequence, he was perfect. Yeah, I thought he did well as well. Kamel again saying one more question: have you tried any Legion builds with 2 ATSTs? Any success? I'll be honest, I haven't actually bought any ATSTs yet. I've only got the core set. I know that Jay from Tabletop Oddity, he'd done a couple of builds with 2 ATSTs in it. I think the problem is they soak up so many points that you not between them and Vader, which essentially was all you had at the time. There was just too many points sunk into it. Excuse me. I think what you will find is now with Vias out, I think Vias and 2 ATSTs is going to be a lot more viable. I think. Have you tried any lists? Is it something you're looking to run? Jens is saying he grew up with Picard like that. Jamie saying taxi for birdies. Yeah, sorry, Jamie. I must admit that's where my geekiness it never stretched to Star Trek. I've not seen the new Netflix series either. I've got Netflix. I subscribe to it, but I've not watched the new Netflix series either. It honestly just it never really kind of never piqued my interest. Jens is saying the new. Michael's saying, Jesus, I keep falling out of the chat. I need to log in again and again. I wonder what it is, Michael. Does anybody else have any problems, or is it just the Dutch network at the minute? Jens is saying the new movies are great. Yeah, I must admit I quite enjoyed them as kind of standalone stories. Michael has also seen like the new Star Trek series. Yeah, as I said, Michael, I've not actually watched it, so I think from what I understand, was it a bit slow to start or something like that? I think I listened to D6 Generation podcast on my drives, and I do remember them saying something about it might have been a little bit slow to get into. Maybe I must have misunderstood it. Yeah, everybody seems to be telling me it's worth a watch. So, do I need to understand anything about Star Trek to get into watching the new series on Netflix then? Because I've got a few nights on my own this week while my wife's away with work. Might be something to watch while I do a bit of painting. So do I need to know anything beforehand, or is it a completely sort of standalone thing? Michael is saying he's got 100 meg internet. Yeah, you're doing all right. I don't know why you keep dropping out then with that kind of stuff, mate. I mean, mine's pretty good here. I think I get about 67 upload, 67 download, and about 16 upload, and that's pretty fast for here, to be fair. Jamie's saying it's very good, and Mark's saying they gave up on that series after 4 was very slow. Yeah, that's what I'd heard, and I think that's why it put me off a little bit, was because I didn't have the kind of like if it was a Star Wars series, my love of Star Wars would have kept me going through those slow episodes to see if it picked up. But with Star Trek, because it's never attracted me. I think if it was slow, I probably would have just dropped out as well. Christian's saying it's all set before the other series. Okay, so I don't need to know anything. And he's saying the new Star Trek's more action orientated, not like the old discussions with the whole Q continuum thing. That's gone over my head. I'm assuming is it a bit more kind of political, the old ones, was it? Jens is saying he saw the pilot for the Netflix one. Was good. So I think we just kind of basically we've got a Star Wars stream that we just start talking about Star Trek. That's all right then. because I don't mind. It's quite nice to get some recommendations for bits and pieces, especially when you're sitting around painting and stuff. Stick the laptop on. So Jamie's saying he's on 300 down, 20 up. You must have cable, I think. There, Jamie. There, the area I live in, I can't get cable. I used to have fiber optic broadband in the last house I lived in. Where I am now, there's no Virgin available here, so it's purely through BT, unfortunately. Michael's saying, talking about Netflix series, check out Altered Carbon and The Rain. I watched the first couple of episodes of Altered Carbon. It's definitely got a very Blade Runner type feel to it, but that was relatively slow as well. But yeah, I need to get back into this, I think. Without Trek, we have no wars. Is that the general feeling then, is it? That basically Star Trek set the way for it? Oh, because like I say, I know I used to have a mate years ago who was a massive Star Trek fan, but I just, like I say, I never really got it. I think it's because it was quite old looking. So even back then, they're all standing there out on the bridge in those kind of mustardy coloured shirts, and it all looked a little bit cheesy. I think that's what put me off. I think. Michael is saying the Q were all knowing beings being annoying because they are bored and can be annoying. Sounds I'm just reading the next one now. Yeah, it sounds very interesting. Mark saying no Virgin Newcastle quote of the night. I'll have to get that on a t-shirt as well, innit? In my last house had Virgin fibre. Where I've moved to now, it's a little bit more kind of out in the sticks a little bit. And no, I was lucky to get super fast broadband. To be honest, when I first bought the house, it said the super fast broadband was available, and then by the time I'd bought the house, it said the cabinet was full, and the best I could have was 1.5 meg. I was about to cry when I read that. But then by the time we moved in, they installed a new cabinet. But yeah, no Virgins in Newcastle. Neil is saying 2009 Star Trek had one of the best opening sequences in my top 5. Which is that the one where his parents die? Is that the one? Maybe I might be mixing them up. If we didn't watch Old Looking Folk, you'd have no viewers. Touche. Right, I'll take that back then. I don't even know what to say to that now, Jimmy. It took the wind out my sails there. So then, how are we doing for time? Right, we're coming up on 10:10 now. What we'll do is for the last 20 minutes then. So like I say, I'm coming up on 2,500 subscribers, or at least I will be if I find another few people to subscribe. And we'll have a bit of a Q&A. So anything you want to ask me, whether it's about gaming, anything else, here's your opportunity to ask me a few questions. Because I don't like doing them as kind of a separate video, really, in general. Because I tend to think it's not what people always really want to watch. But I think for you kind of folks that come into the live streams, I think you like to come in just for the chat, really, and stuff. So yeah. Why not? So we'll do that for a bit. So anything you want to know, feel free to ask. If it's too personal, I might dodge it. Neil saying, "Oh yes, yeah, I thought it was that one, mate." Jens is saying, "You're also on 100 as well. Wow, you got some good broadband over there, haven't you?" Miniature painting saying, "Bearded snooker, the bearded snooker ball show." What? I took me a while to realise what you meant there, mate. Thanks for that, the bearded snooker ball. I'll take that, like. I think of myself as it's more of a... Yeah, it's like a cue ball, isn't it, really, to be fair? More like Kojak with a beard. So, Michael's got the first question in then. So he's saying, when are you going to start Kings of War? Do you know what? I always keep saying that I want to play it. But I need to get a demo game of it first before I start buying an army. It's a big commitment to buy an army for a full scale game like that. without having played it. So I need to get a demo game in first, I think. So yeah, if I can arrange a demo game this year, who knows? I might dip my toe into the water with my first army. But I like the idea of it. I must admit, I've heard good things about it. But yeah, I need to try it first to be sure. Jens is having a good laugh at my behalf there. Jamie saying, do you prefer beard oil or beard balm? Sorry, I've not had my medication. I have both, but I tend to use these days because my beard's a bit shorter. I used to be a bit more of a beard. I tend to use balm, mate, just for the odd few loose hairs that kind of stick out a bit. There you go, mate. That is really cutting edge, isn't it? Do I use beard oil or beard balm? Michael saying, Andy, if I see videos, I'll see how I can push Ronnie when the Kickstarter is over. Yeah, I must admit, Michael, I watched your video and it did look interesting, but I do need to give it a try. Jens is saying, what do you think about Fallout Wasteland Warfare? I'm really interested in it, to be fair, Jens. I'm not a huge kind of player of the Fallout games. I do have Fallout 4 on PlayStation, and I would like to kind of get back into that as well and play that a bit more because I know that's what the game's based upon. But I like the idea of it. I watched a demo of it being played, and I did arrange some time to go down to Modiphius as well and to actually go and do a demo and do some videos. But at the time, it was just a bit too short notice, and it was a little bit too expensive to get down there. So I never really got round to doing that. I saw it at Salute, but I couldn't get anywhere near it at the time. There was too many people playing it. So I'm hoping to potentially see it at UK Games Expo in June. But yeah, I think I like the idea of it. I like that kind of sort of that Fallout Wasteland aesthetic. So yeah, I'll definitely be checking it out anyway. Michael's saying he's a beard oil guy. Todd is saying, what are your thoughts on virtual wargaming? I saw a stream on it lately for Warhammer 40k. So, do you mean, Todd, both people have miniatures at home and they're kind of streaming them playing against each other? Or is it like a bit like Tabletop Simulator that you get on PC where you're both playing like a digital version of a miniatures game? Because I have played, I know Jay plays a bit of Star Wars Legion on Tabletop Simulator when he was waiting for the Legion to come out, and I have played a bit of X-Wing in the past on tabletop, and I've also played Star Wars Destiny as well. Sam and I played it, and there's a video on my channel actually, and it's really good for that game actually. It's a bit of a mix really. I think it's a good way to get games in with people when you can't always visit them. So, for example, me and any one of you guys, it's a great way for us to have a game together when we wouldn't ordinarily get the chance. But for me, as big a part of the hobby for me, aside from the playing, is also the painting and the modelling as well. So it kind of takes that out of it a little bit, and it takes away that the big kind of laid out table with all the terrain and the painted figures and everything. So I think it's got its places, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Jens is saying he likes the co-op and solo variants. Yeah, I like the fact that it was solo as well, Jens. Jamie saying played 40k for the first time in ages today. Are you still building a 40k army? Yes, I've still got a Blood Angels army on the go, and I've also got the other side of the starter box as well, which was the Death Guard. I've built them up, but I haven't painted them yet. I'm churning through the Blood Angels army at some point. I want to get it built to a point where I can maybe have like a 400 or 500 point game just to kind of try it out, because I've not played it in years, but I would like to give it a go. I think it's just too big a game. You know, like I'm kind of doing tabletop stuff and I'm making videos. It's too big and too popular a game for me not to have even kind of give it a try really and even just understand it. So yeah. Michael saying, second question. I'm not saying the swear words out loud. Where's the Evan Moldlines jokes? I think we'll be waiting for Neil. Neil's normally the Moldline guy, isn't he? Or was it? Oh no, it wasn't Neil. It was. Oh, I forget who it was now. Yeah, there was definitely a couple of people in the last stream, I think, with a Moldline joke. Jens is saying he ordered the starter set to test. Also used terrain from Walking Dead. Yeah, actually, the starters, the Walking Dead terrain would look good on that as well. I saw that the is it Battle? Are they called Battlefield Systems or Battleground Systems or something? The guys that do the slot together card terrain stuff. They've done little packs, I think, of scenery for it as well. Todd is saying yes, it's the second one, which was basically the digital version. Yeah. Jens Moldline Snooker Virgins. Bloody hell. Mark's saying, how's your Gaslands team coming on? I'll tell you how it's coming on, Mark. It's not budged. So my local club have massively got into Gaslands recently. Loads of guys have gone out and bought books, started building up their cars, and one of the guys has got a little company that makes he makes the little acrylic templates and stuff. So he's started making some templates for that as well. So it's really picking up at my local club. But I must admit, I've still got 2 toy cars. I can actually see them from here. They're still just sitting on my little paint tray. Not even getting any further with them yet. Jamie saying, when I have issues with mold lines, I turn to beard oil for the discerning gamer. Do you just rub it on your eyes and then you can't see the mold lines anymore? Is that what you do with it? Todd saying, I agree. I'm more the painter modeler type, but can't always get people to play other than my wife. Yeah, that's the balance, isn't it? Really, it's that basically it's a trade-off. If you don't get to play it anyway, then it's a good kind of second, I guess. But if I had to choose one or the other, I'd probably choose the face-to-face gaming. Millennium War Games is in. Nice to see you, fella. How you doing? Haven't heard from you in a little while. Nice to see you in the stream. He said he loves Star Wars and love you, Andy. Where were you about 10 minutes ago when everybody was calling me a bearded snooker ball? I could have done with a bit of love then. Jamie saying took 5 hours to play it today. Bloody Nurgle Demons. And he's really looking forward to Hellboy now. The miniature is superb. I've heard quite a few people say that the new version takes quite some time to play until you kind of get used to it. But 5 hours is a long time, isn't it? Did you get a chance to demo the game yesterday? Was it yesterday or Saturday? Sorry. Did you get a chance to demo the game as well, Jamie? Did you get a chance to roll some dice and see what you think of it? The miniatures are really nice, and it's good to see a few people are starting to get them in those lucky bags as well. I see it's almost for anybody that has backed the Kickstarter for Hellboy. I think it's just about to reach $1 million, which is unbelievable. I think it's definitely caught Mantic out as well as, but the amount of stretch goals that's coming through now, it really is starting to look like exceptional value. So anybody that hasn't jumped on board, it's definitely worth checking out. Mark is saying same here for Jamie as well. Hellboy looks great. I actually just completed my my backer kit today for Batman as well. So originally I went in for just the core game. And today I had to kind of do the backer kit and commit to any upgrades and stuff. And I decided to pick up the Versus mode, and there was another expansion as well that you needed the Versus mode for, which was only an extra $10 or something. So I didn't go in with the Arkham Asylum upgrade or the Batmobile upgrade, any of that stuff. But I did upgrade to the Versus mode as well. Mark saying, yeah, it's at just over 950,000. They're doing a thing every Wednesday basically where you can upgrade as well. So there's like an upgrade Wednesday, and I think this week there was a load of like plastic terrain, wasn't it, to go with the game, which looks really, really good. I think I'll be upgrading to that as well. But yes, I think that normally these kind of Kickstarters seem to peak quite fast, and then there's a bit of a lull through the middle. But this one just seems to be keep trucking on. It seems to be doing really well. Jamie saying he didn't get a chance to play it. It's a shame, Jamie. You definitely would have. You'd have enjoyed it, mate. You're saying the issue with Nurgle is they have 2 saves. It takes ages to chew through. Yeah, it's is it called disgustingly resilient or something like that? Is it? I think that's like their second. Is it like a 5-up save or something? Even after they get hit. Todd is saying he's super amped about Zombicide Invader. Can't wait. I was so close to going in on that one, I'll be honest, Todd. The only reason I didn't was just the sheer volume of stuff that's been happening recently. So I'd obviously just backed Batman. I knew Hellboy was coming. I just couldn't justify going in for another one again. But I think I regret it a little bit, really. Christian is saying, anybody getting the folding dice tray? Haven't decided on it yet. I'm not sure, to be honest, Christian. I mean, dice trays is not something I really tend to spend money on. I've got a couple that I've made myself just out of picture frames and mouse mats. So I need to have a bit of a close look at that, I think. Michael's saying, looking out for Terrain Crate. I was next to Ronnie when the final photos came in the office. He opened it up, went red, started cursing, and after a second or 10, he said, there's too much in the box. Bloody hell. Interesting. Jamie's saying, that's the one. Yeah, that's disgustingly resilient. It's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? Again, I think it was D6 Generation podcast I was listening to, and Craig Gallant, that's on that. He played Nurgle, and he said that basically it was quite embarrassing to play. That it almost just felt like you're annoying your opponent a little bit. You know, they're trying to hit you, and you just keep saying, "Oh yeah, now I do this save again, and now I do this save again," and it's quite a difficult one. It's almost just it like negates really some of the rules of the game almost. So I'm being a little bit cautious about painting up the Nurgle ones, I'll be honest. Mark saying he got the Civ pledge for Invader. Nice one, mate. Well done. I didn't realise you'd gone in for Invader, actually. I forgot that. Michael said to Christian, he's got a review of it on his channel for the deep cut one. Dice tray. Are these ones deep cut as well? Are they, Michael? I think the ones that are Mantic, or am I getting confused? I know Steamforge have just done a deal, haven't they, with deep cut. Todd is saying, I hear you. I missed the Batman Kickstarter, and I'm sure I'll be kicking myself in the future. To be honest, if you're feeling a bit flushed, Todd, the Batman Kickstarter is open at the pledge manager level now. It's open for everybody again. So if you do want to jump in on it and you've got a bit of spare cash, it's not too late to jump in on that one. I'm trying to remember. I think it was $140 for the core set. But you do get an absolute ton of miniatures in there, and the miniatures do look very nice. So anyway, anybody that's on the fence about it or has a nice wallet full of cash they want to spend, it's still open at the minute. Michael is saying, have you met Ronnie in his natural habitat? You know it doesn't take much to get him cursing. Yeah, he definitely seems to slip the odd swear word, doesn't he, into conversation? And then you can see almost the guys around him look a little bit uncomfortable when he does. But I'm all right with that. Christian is saying to Michael he'll check it out later tonight. Jamie saying, luckily his freshly painted Shard of the Catan ate them all in the end. But after 5 hours, oh, bloody hell. So how come you decided to play that today then, Jamie? Was it today or yesterday, sorry? How come you decided to play that? Was it just a bit of a change of pace? Michael is saying, he's telling Christian about his channels as well. Anybody that's not subscribed to Michael's channels, head over there. He's just listed them at the bottom of the chat as well. Todd saying, I have miniatures to paint in the next 10 years between Chronicle X, Nemesis, and Resident Evil 2. Yeah, I got in on Resident Evil 2 as well, so I'm waiting for Resident Evil, for Batman, for Hellboy to come. So I think next, kind of from the back end of this year, because I think November's when Resident Evil comes. So from there, I'll kind of have a little bit to look forward to with things coming in. So, right, I'm gonna wrap the chat up in about 5 minutes. We'll call it a night for that one. Been another interesting chat tonight. It's always good to get a good mix of people through. Playing different games. We get some new faces in here as well. It's good to hear what you've been doing. It's good to get some different opinions on stuff as well. Because, like I say, everybody's opinion is valid. There's no right and wrong answers on anything. And we're all just, we all feel strongly about stuff because we all just love the hobby that we're involved in. Todd is saying I may get Batman through the pledge manager. Yeah, it's worth having a look at it, mate. Just like I say, it's I think it was $140 plus. Was it about $27 shipping or something like that? I think it was. Jimmy saying regarding Kickstarters, you misplay the long game like I do. Wait for the buyer's remorse to kick in and buy it on the cheap when it comes out. Do you know what? With the Batman one, I've got a feeling that one, potentially because it's not going to retail, it could potentially go up in price. And that I almost went all in on that one for that reason, so that if I didn't really play it, I'd probably get more than my money back. The Resident Evil one, it was just, it wasn't particularly expensive. I think it was like 60 quid or something like that. So I'm all right with that one. And the Hellboy one, because I've been fortunate enough to be able to play the game beforehand, it wasn't really a risk for me. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to it. I've seen the miniatures firsthand. I've seen the game grow to the point where it was when the Kickstarter went live. And I've been involved with Mantic Kickstarter before with Walking Dead, so I didn't feel that one was much of a risk really. Jamie saying he'd run the 40k league at Asgard, and was my turn to play. Luckily, I have Necron, so they have a nice new powerful codex. Yeah, I started a Necron army a while ago because I thought it would be quick to paint them and stuff. But I think I just got a little bit. We're all a bit samey. I think it was, unfortunately, painting a load of silver miniatures. I think was a bit much. Jens is saying Deep Madness to be the next Kickstarter that will be delivered. And hopefully in December, Joan of Arc. I just read about Joan of Arc today as well. So the company that they use for the pledge manager, there must be a new company, and Joan of Arc is the highest pledged game that's ever been on this new company, this new pledge manager. And I think they said it hit $4 million with all of the extra backers as well. So there must be a heck of a ton of stuff of that coming out as well. So. Right then, folks, it's coming up to past now, so I'm gonna call it an end to the stream for tonight. Thank you, every single one of you, for being involved tonight. Thanks for the chat. You've kept the chat going really great. Give me plenty of stuff to keep talking about. It's quite hard to sit here for an hour and a half and just keep talking when the chat's quiet. So as always, you've more than helped me out by keeping the conversation going. Thanks to everyone. Enjoy what's left of your Bank Holiday Monday, anyone. And we'll have some more videos this week, and I'll see you again in next Monday's stream. So, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video.